Hey everybody, it's Candy, aka Brown Eyed Girl 69. How y'all doing today? Well, today is June 15th of 2026, and I am here to talk about some stories. And I was sitting here thinking, I wonder what I could share and talk about. And then it popped in my head the perfect conversation to have today. And that's going to be on homelessness, but I'm going to talk about hitchhiking while homeless, or at any other given time, I suppose. But I will say that I was never one of those teenagers that just wanted to stick my thumb out and hope for the best. I mean, when I was a kid growing up in the 70s, well, I grew up in this small town. Everybody knew everybody, so there wasn't no kid snatching going on. Now, in the 80s, I was a teenager, but I was up in a bigger city, bigger town next, west of Oklahoma City. And so there was a little bit more to be concerned with, because it was right by a highway, and pretty young girls went missing all the time up in Oklahoma City. State Fair, we had a few years, Oklahoma had disappearances from the State Fair. So I never hitchhiked, even though I walked a lot and rode my bike a lot when I was a teenager. But the one thing I never tried was hitchhiking. Okay, Daryl and I never had to hitchhike. Well, let me say my very first experience with hitchhiking was probably back when I was a teenager, actually. Um, but there were adults around. Um, Basically, what had happened was my parents, me, and one of my friends had went down to our lake cabin that we had at Lake Eufaula, Oklahoma. And my dad, I guess, had a friend that had let him drive this like Winnebago type vehicle and a motorhome. And we went down there in that. Well, we were in the midst, we had just basically left. We were maybe 9 or 10 miles outside of town. And the motorhome broke down. I guess something happened to the radiator or one of the hoses or something. I just know that it started, the air conditioner freaked out, and then there was this like crazy smell. So, anyway, my dad, he wants to try to get a ride back into town, of course, so he can get his friend to come help us out. So, my dad's out there hitchhiking, standing there. I don't see, I'm a teenager, so my dad was probably at least 50 years old. Me and my mom and my friend are sitting in the motorhome on the side of the road. What on the side of the road? There was actually a pretty decent pull off parking area in front of some nightclub or something like that. So we pulled off there and was parked there. But my dad wasn't having no luck. So my mom was like, "Hey, girls, better go help him out." So we went out there. My dad went back to the motorhome. First motorist that rolled by me and my friend stopped. And then, of course, I said, "Hey, our motorhomes broke down and my dad needs to ride back to town. Can you help us out?" And that's about the time my dad showed up. So, of course, the man did help my dad out and brought him into town. The rest is history on that. So I never actually hitchhiked then. It was just pretending. The next time I had a hitchhike, how did that go? because we were in Tucson first. Okay, so Daryl and I, when we left Boulder, we went to Vegas. We had our little experience in Vegas. And then we went to Tucson, and we stayed in Tucson for 2 months. Indoors, Daryl had a band that he played in. So we had a little bit of money coming in, but not much. We were trying to both find, I was trying to find a permanent job for sure, but nothing was going through. Anyway, when it was time for us to leave Tucson, we didn't really know what we were going to do, but we had hitchhiked. Well, no, we hadn't hitchhiked. I don't know what I'm thinking. That's the second part of the story. Before we actually left there, I had let people know that we were coming back to Oklahoma because this was December of 2013. So Daryl and I had been homeless approximately about 7 months. And we had not seen Kelsey since February of 2012. And here it was Christmas, well, a little before Christmas of 2013. And so I had made arrangements with some friends that if we'd made it to certain distances, if we could get from like point A to point B, we'd have somebody at point B that would get us to point C, and somebody at point C who could get us to our final destination. So I had this all arranged, but I wasn't really quite sure on how it was going to happen or if it would be able to happen. When we left Tucson, we basically were trying to get money first. So we were flying sign out by the off ramp and a pilot, and then they had this place called the Triple T, and it was a restaurant, a gas station, convenience store, motel, all in one. And across the street from there was this place called the Pilot, which was this big convenience store. And of course, they did serve truckers and had showers and things of that nature. So we were on a good off ramp, on ramp to get on. The first night, we slept next to the hotel against this wall. It was really cold that night. Next night, it was due to even be colder and rain. So we did make a little bit of money and was able to get a hotel room because the hotel room was really cheap. It was like $35 for both he and I. So we was able to at least, get some decent rest before we were going to try hitchhiking the next day. I was a little scared, to be honest, because I didn't know what was going to happen. I just knew that Daryl and I was not going to be separated. So I talked to Kelsey on the phone that morning, and it was like, I think, what day was it? December 20th. And I told her, I was like, hey, she's like, Grandma says you're not going to make it. I was like, well, hey, it's not Christmas Day yet, is it? I was like, I still have 5 days technically before I need to be knocking on that door. And she goes, that's right, that's right. I was like, so you keep your head up, girl. Your mama's going to be there one way or another, regardless. Come hell or high water, I will be there. We left the hotel. We checked out, went and got some tobacco, a couple other snacks with what little bit of money we had left, some waters, something like that. Was walking up to the ramp to fly our sign, and our sign basically said, heading east, Dallas, Texas. Well, we hadn't even got to pull our sign out yet. Um, but we had our gear on us, and you could definitely tell the direction we was walking that, we were going to try to get on the highway and flag somebody down to give us a ride. So as we're walking under the highway, a trucker rolls by us and honked, and he said, "You heading east?" And we're like, "Yes." And he's like, "I'll meet you over there." So he pulled up onto the little side parkway they had, right next to the on ramp. And we get over there, and he has his door open, the passenger side door open. And I'm the first, I think, to get up there. And he said, "How far are you going?" I was like, "Dallas, Texas, man." He goes, "That's my final destination. Hop in." I was like, "Me and my old man, or it ain't no go." He goes, "Yeah, you and your old man. That's why I pulled over." So we hopped up in the cab, and we had a ride all the way to Dallas, Texas. When we got to Dallas, Texas, we had somebody waiting there for us to bring us up to Gainesville, Texas. And then my cousin lived in Ardmore area, and she drove down from there and picked us up in Gainesville and brought us up here. The day we arrived here, on December 21st, one day after I talked to Kelsey. Now, don't get me wrong. Kelsey didn't know we were on our way. It wasn't like I was just going to surprise her. Wanted her to be prepared. I had to have that conversation with her because of the position that I knew her grandmother would be put in when me and Daryl arrived. That's another story for another time and another day. So that was our first experience hitchhiking. Basically, we stayed up here for a week, enjoyed the week for Christmas, and then my cousin had offered, that had given us the ride up here. She basically offered up her home to us and said, "Hey, look, you and Daryl can come here and ring in the new year with us, and we'll give you, a couple of weeks to decide what you want to do. See if you can get anything going anywhere else out there. We'll help you out as much as we can. Your home's going to be our home. Don't worry about anything. Don't worry about asking for anything. We're going to go to the grocery store. We're going to stock up on all the foods and stuff that you want. You'll have access to a computer 24/7. You'll have your own room. You'll have your own bathroom." And I was just like, "Thank you. How can I, just thank you. There's just no way I could ever repay you." She goes, "No, I'm doing this because I love you, because you're my cousin, your family, and you've been through it, and you need the assistance." So in the time frame that Daryl and I stayed with her, that's when he was able to try to secure a job as a guitar instructor, and he did get a job as a guitar instructor in San Antonio, Texas. And we headed down there. Had a little bit of rockiness in the first couple weeks we was there, and wound up being homeless. Daryl had a job, but we were homeless, so we started staying in this homeless shelter. And I think I've mentioned a little bit about that before, but I'll have to give a detailed story on the homeless shelter situation. It's the only shelter we stayed in the whole entire time we were homeless. We decided we wanted to leave San Antonio. We were able to get the funds up through some friends of ours that helped us out, through my daughter, whoever it was. We had the money. We was able to get us bus tickets to Austin, Texas. That's where I met that girl that I just posted a picture of recently about, that I got to see. I hadn't seen in a while. Her name was Venus. That's where we hooked up with her. We hung out with her for about a week. We decided we didn't want to be there. She had a friend that lived in Taos. We always wanted to see Taos. We always wanted to see the airships. Um, and there was her friend that had some property that was probably about 25 to 30 miles outside of Taos, out by the airships. And he had a little hippie bus, a little hippie school bus on the property, along with a couple of other uh, mobile homes, trailers, just other living type arrangements, shelters. Had a shower and everything out there. It was pretty cool. But personalities didn't mesh, and we left very quickly within moments of getting to Taos. Like within several days of being in Taos, we left. But our next hitchhiking experience was hitchhiking from Austin to Taos. See how much time I got. We basically rode the bus to the furthest, most north point that we could get in Austin, outside of Austin, city limits. And we got there late at night one night, like on the last bus. And there was an abandoned bank across the street from this grocery store. We went into the grocery store. We used the restroom. We might have bought some drinks or grabbed us some snacks or something like that. I can't remember exactly what we did, but I do remember we went in there. And my back's itching just a second. We went in there, did what we needed to do, and then we needed to try to find a place to crash. So we went across the street to this abandoned bank, and on the back side of the bank was the drive-through ATM, everything like that, but it was shut down. So we basically laid all of our stuff out there in one of the drive-through lanes and camped out for the night. Got up the next day, went back to the grocery store, did what we needed to do, and then we walked up to the highway that we needed to be on and stuck our thumbs out. Our first ride picked us up in a Mustang. Now, picture this, a Mustang. A Mustang is a sports car. It's not very huge. Their trunk's not very large. It was one driver. He had a back seat and a front seat. And there was 3 adults and a dog. And all of our gear. And believe it or not, we all got in the car. And all of our gear fit in the car. And we were on the way down the road. He dropped us off. Wherever it was, I can't remember. He didn't take us too far. He might have took us about 25, 30 miles. And we got dropped off in this other little, like, small town. And this other guy picked us up in a pickup truck. So we all rode in the back of his pickup truck. He stopped in this other town that had a, like, Dairy Queen type place. And he bought us all food and drinks and drove us to the next town up. And it was in this town that we were kind of wondering if we weren't going to be staying the night because, it was starting to get late. Starting to get to be more mid to late afternoonish. We happened to be standing on this corner where there was this convenience store. And I can't remember, there might have been some like eatery nearby across the street, something like that. They had a little gas station. Well, this man and boy rolled in this car. It wasn't a very big car. It was big enough to put three people in the back seat. It had a big enough trunk to put some luggage. And we were going to be pretty packed, but it wasn't going to be too bad. And they picked us up and took us to Sweetwater, Texas, to where we basically were now on I-40. I-40, we could either go east back into the DFW airport or DFW area, or we could head west towards New Mexico. So that's what we did. But that was where we stopped for the night. And they had a very nice truck stop there. They had a couple eateries. There were some nice folks that kicked us food down. On the opposite side of the highway, they had a convenience store. There was it looked like it had been an old oil company of some sort business at one point in time, but it was abandoned, and there was a building there, and it was abandoned. We actually went and looked inside the building, but there was a whole bunch of stuff in there, and it was dark, and we just didn't know what else was in there. If there were spiders, rats, whatever, so we felt safer outside. So we went back outside, found us a place outside, kind of close to the building, but not too close. If anybody would have rolled up on us, I mean, they would have seen us right away. It wasn't like we were trying to hide ourselves. And we pulled up a patch of ground, and that's where we slept for the night. Next day, we got up, went to that convenience store, got some coffee, utilized their facilities, and got to hitchhiking again. A little old man and his dog picked us all up, and he had a little motorhome too, but it was a little miniature one, It was just like big enough for him. It was pretty cool. And he picked us up there in Sweetwater and drove us all the way to Abilene. No, wait, it wasn't Sweetwater. I'll have to edit the description of the video with the proper town, whatever, that we started out in, and then we went to Abilene, and I think the town after Abilene was Sweetwater. Anyway, this old man picked us up in Abilene. He didn't really drop us off where we wanted to. We wound up going to this, I don't think it was anything to do with homeless people, but it had something to do with AA or something like that. I don't know. The people helped us out and got us back to where we needed to be. Then this other guy came along in a U-Haul truck and picked us up and drove us to Sweetwater. Now, the thing with the dude in the U-Haul that drove us to Sweetwater, it was a U-Haul pickup truck. It wasn't a U-Haul moving van. But it was a rented vehicle, a rented truck. Venus and Daryl and Kimber, that's the dog, piled into the back of the truck with all the gear. And I sat up front with this dude. We were driving down the road, and I was just adjusting the vent to get the air to blow on me a little bit more. And he looks at me and goes, "Oh, that don't work. Throw it out." And I was like, "What?" He goes, "That don't work no more. Just throw it out. Toss it out the window." Well, because I didn't know this guy, and the way he said it was so direct to just do it. So I did. I reached my hand in, I put my fingers in the vent thing, and yanked it out. It looked like kind of a cup holder with a vent on it. windows, little shade, whatever. He rolled the window down and said, toss it. So I tossed it out the window. I don't think he thought I was going to do that. He rolled the window up, and then the next thing he says to me is, well, that's going to cost me $1,000. This vehicle's rented. And I'm sitting there thinking, I didn't say nothing. I was just sitting there thinking in my mind, oh God, please hurry up and let's just get to the next drop-off location. So we get to the next town, which was Sweetwater. And Daryl and Venus had no idea what had happened, while I was in the vehicle. So we had to wait until we got away from this guy so I could explain to them what was going on. And they were like, oh my God, what a weirdo. You know what I mean? And they told me that they seen this thing go flying by, but they didn't realize what it was. They just seen it, get this plastic go fly by. They didn't know what it was. And when I told them, I was like, oh yeah, that was that air vent that I threw out the window. I ain't got a lot of time left, so we'll just stop it there. I still have some more hitchhiking adventures to tell you. So yeah, I'll stop it there. We were basically halfway in between Austin, Texas, and Taos, New Mexico. We're in Sweetwater, Texas. And we made it up there in basically 2 days. The one day we made it from Austin up to that town that's just outside of Fort Worth. I said it was Sweetwater, but that's not the name of the town. I can't remember the name of it, but I'll find it. And I don't even think there's really a town there. It might have just been like a rest stop type area. We made it there on the first day. And then the next day we made it from there to Sweetwater, Texas. But our day wasn't quite over yet. Even though it was about roughly 7 p.m., 8 p.m. in the evening. Our evening wouldn't end until approximately 1 or 2 a.m. But that's where I'm going to leave y'all, and I'll start that off on the next one. Until then, peace, love, hugs, nugs, and I'm out.